Roger, really happy that you're here. You're a brilliant guy, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this topic of money.
Thank you, and good to be here.
Yeah, so you've got quite an entrepreneurial background, and you have certainly a lot of perspectives around money, and even train entrepreneurs, around these concepts of understanding not just how to make money, but really what money is, and how it relates to human beings.
Right.
But let's start kind of with your background. How did you get into the stuff that you're doing today?
Totally by accident. I was actually studying architecture in Cambridge.
Uh-huh.
My dad wanted to be an architect. I decided that's what I should do as well. And it was actually while I was at college that I had my first business experience. And it really started because I was at the end of my first year. I was rowing in the college boat, and I had my director of studies who said, you can't be rowing and you can't be doing architecture at the same time because the time commitment was so massive. And he actually warned me at the end of the first year, unless I could actually spend the whole summer on my portfolio, then I was out. So I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Because I have to do that, but I also know that like my big dream is to be able to get into the first boat, which means I've got to go in the training camp. And in addition to that, all my friends who had jobs down in London, they were all saving up to go to a trip in Greece. And I really wanted to do that, but I had no job because my parents were back in Hong Kong. They didn't know people in London. And so I was sitting down, feeling sorry for myself in the pub one night in pretty much the last week of school before the break. And I just got a little pad and I wrote down, what if I was to add all three of my problems together and turn it into a question? And so I said, okay, how would I make enough money to go to Greece while being on rowing camp and fill up my portfolio? And it was like, ta-da! It's like from there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to do drawings in Cambridge for the tourists so that I can actually do that during the day, make the money, and then in the mornings I'll go rowing. And that's what I did from day one. I just went out there, did this, and I had the most incredible experience making more money by doing that than if I'd gone and got a job in London and being able to get into the rowing camp and being able to go go to Greece. And all of this taught me that at any point, your problem is also your source of your greatest profit. And so from there, it really got me addicted to this idea that I could always find a smarter way to solve other people's problems. And that's really what entrepreneurs do. And one thing led to another, along with pretty fateful viewpoint I had from someone called Buckminster Fuller, which switched the way that I thought about my life and also got me on this journey of being an entrepreneur.
So what was it that you heard from Buckminster Fuller that changed you?
Well, in architecture, we were learning about different people that had all sorts of inventions they'd made for architecture, and he was the creator of the geodesic dome. And one of the things that I read up about him was he had this concept which was called the final exam. And he said that because he was a futurist as well as an architect, he said that all of the world's challenges were distribution challenges. So for example, when you say there's poverty, it's not because there isn't enough money, it's just not distributed effectively. Right. Or if you say there's hunger, right? It's not because there isn't enough food, it's just not distributed effectively. And he said that technology allows us to distribute far more effectively. And even then, in the 1970s, there was already enough technology to solve all the world's problems. So he said, so why have we not solved them? And he said the reason we haven't solved them is because of our human consciousness. And technology keeps accelerating exponentially. And so if we don't watch out, we have the possibility of actually not passing this exam. And if we don't do that, it's the end of civilization. He says either consciousness will accelerate enough to harness that technology and we will solve the world's problems, or it won't, in which case technology will eventually destroy us. And we have a window of time, which he didn't specify how much that was, but I was guessing it's maybe 20, 30 years. And I don't think we're too far out from that, in order for us to actually be able to solve these challenges. And for me, that was such a massive shift in thinking in terms of the fact that I'm living at this time, we're all living in this point of time where it's a make or break, that I thought I shouldn't be building buildings, I should be building businesses, really designing the future, because, as they say, best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's what entrepreneurs can do.
So captivating, that vision that he laid out. And it's interesting that many people, they have that kind of pivotal moment where, from something they heard, something a mentor said or whatever, that light goes off and there they are. Yeah. But I'm curious, because you said you started drawing, in London. So that was, and incidentally, I don't want this to go by too quick either. You solved your problems by what? Asking a question.
Yes.
So I want to learn more about the details of how you solved it, but do you have a premise that the quality of our outcomes is based upon the quality of the questions we can ask?
Absolutely. I really believe that we, every day our life is determined by the quality of our questions. And I mean, the word quest in questions is about that idea that whatever quest we're on today is the size of the question. I mean, like, if my biggest question today is what I'm going to have for lunch, right? That's as big as today's going to get, right? But if I'm thinking about what today I'm doing to solve a much bigger problem, whether it's something that's going to be an impact to my family or something of impact to a much wider community, well, then of course I'm going to be in a much, much bigger quest.
Yeah.
So I think that's so important. I also think this point about most people getting stuck on problems as opposed to converting those problems into questions and realizing the source of their biggest problem is also the source of the biggest profit.
Wow.
There's so many examples of entrepreneurs that have said, well, I've got this problem, others probably have this as well. What's the way I can figure out the solution to this? And then of course they're solving it not just for themselves, but for everyone else as well.
Thanks so much for being here and watching that video. And can I ask you to please subscribe to our channel so you can find out when we're posting new content. You'll be alerted right away when we do. To share this with people you think might benefit from the information, and certainly it helps us if you like the video. So if you like what you just saw, go ahead and hit that like button. And again, thank you so much for being here with me right now.